Well, hey there, it's Pete with GCI Turf. I hope you're having a great day today. I'm going to welcome you out here to my shop where I've recently sodded this with Tiff Tough Bermuda. And I want to kind of take you through the process, start to finish. And hey, before we get into the sod, I want to say look in the description below, get on my email list because I have something coming that has to do with lawnmower blades. Sign up on my email list and you'll be the first to know. It's in the description below. And so for the folks that watch me on a normal routine basis, you know that I seeded all this with the Alpha Elite, come in like a champion, look great, glowing like a new penny. I was hard-headed and stubborn, overseeded it with rye, rye's allelopathic to Bermuda, wiped out my Bermuda, left me with a mess this past spring. I come in and seeded it once. We had torrential rains and just destroyed all my work. 2 to 3 weeks after that, I'd done the same thing, overseeded again with Bermuda, and doggone it if it didn't rain again on me and just destroyed everything I'd done. So I threw in the towel and said, doggone it, I'm gonna sod it. And I sodded this bad boy. So first things first, what is sod? Basically, when you go to a sod farm, you have these massive fields that they grow whatever turf type it is. And in this case, this is Tiff Tough Bermuda. And they've got Kentucky bluegrass sod, and they've got fescue sod, and they've got rye sod, and I'm sure they've got St. Augustine sod and zoysia sod. They've got sod that cover all the different varieties of turf. And basically, wherever these sod farms are, they grow it out in these massive fields. And once they get that turf up and established and hardy and ready to cut, they come in with a sod cutter and cut, and anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches of soil comes out with the turf. And a lot of these harvester type tractors will roll it up and stack it on a pallet, and whoever buys the sod buys it, and it's shipped and delivered out to the location. Once all the current turf is gone and dead and removed, you either want to blend that in with the ground by tilling it under or something to that effect, or in my case, I simply used a power rake to level and smooth up the area. That's probably going to be the single most important part of laying sod is the prep work before you lay the sod. If the ground is uneven and bumpy and rough, your sod is most likely to follow the contour of the ground. So you want to make sure your prep work is spot on. Laying the sod's pretty easy. You simply throw the roll out there and unroll it like a piece of carpet. Now you really want to focus on getting all of your seams. Wherever the sod is touching another piece of sod, you want to get them as tight as you possibly can. And you just continue that process on until you get all your sod laid out. I used a string and a nail to outline my beds. And by doing it that way, it's super easy to go back and take a sod knife or a pocket knife or something that will cut the sod, and you simply follow the string and cut the sod out so that it lines up with where you want your beds at. Sometimes when you're doing a curved area, it's hard to lay that out with a string. You might could use a hose pipe or a garden hose or something. I simply eyeballed it over here in the corner and used my sod knife to cut this area out kind of like I wanted it. So once I've got everything cut out like I want, all my edges are done, the sod's laid, I take a roller and I roll the sod. Now I do not put aggressive pressure on this. I'm simply putting a slight amount of pressure just to press the root zone of the sod into the soil below. And the single most important thing when you're laying sod is water it. I cannot tell you how many times our company has gotten a phone call, my yard is dead, it's sodded, and I don't know what to do. And we go out and we check out the yard, and the sod is dead as a hammer, and it's also dry as a bone. What you want to do as far as watering goes with sod is you want to water heavily. You have to penetrate the canopy of the turf, the root zone of the turf. You want that entire layer of dirt that is connected to the bottom of the sod moist, and you want the dirt under the sod to be moist. That is the single most devastating thing that can happen in a sod job, is when it is not watered correctly. Now, something else I plan to do to this sod very quickly, okay? If we weren't in such a crazy weather pattern right now, we're getting heavy, heavy downpours in the late afternoon, I would have already done this. But I don't want my fertilizer washing away, so I'm gonna wait a couple more days and let us get past this weather pattern, and then I'm gonna come out here and spray it down with some green pop. I'm gonna have green pop, RGS, and humic 12 all in the tank. I'm gonna come out here and spray it down and water it in real good. That's gonna help my root system to start tacking down. It's gonna promote a little bit of growth. It's gonna help this to green back up. This sod set on the pallets for about 2 days before we laid it. So if you can imagine a roll of sod, zero sunlight, it was really, really yellow when we laid it. And since then, it's been 2 days since we laid it, and it has already greened up significantly. So when I hit it with the green pop, RGS, humic 12, I expect it's gonna explode then. Now, how will I know when to start mowing this? Well, there's not going to be any real mowing done this year on this. I'll use straight up rotary mower. We'll get back into real mowing next year in the spring when this wakes up. But once this roots and tacks down, you can see how I can still pull it up very easily. This sod's only been down for 2 days now. But once this roots, and when I grab it and I can't pull it up anymore, in my book, it's safe to go ahead and start mowing it. You're okay to go ahead and start your normal fertilization program on the turf, but that's the kicker. You want it rooted first, okay? And once I start mowing it, it's probably going to grow a little bit. We still have about a month and a half of heat left here. So I imagine this should grow in and fill in and thicken up a little bit before we hit that first frost. Because you Bermuda guys, you know that once the frost comes and hits this, it's going to turn paper sack brown. And of course, we're going to leave it like that all winter, and we'll do some winter Bermuda care out here. And then we'll wake it up next spring and start real mowing it, sand level it, get it nice and perfectly level. And even when you pull these and close up these gaps as tight as you can see sometimes they just kind of ease back apart, okay? It's not a huge deal with Bermuda, especially because I'm going to sand level this next year, and the sand will fill this in and then smooth it out really nice and slick right there, and that'll be gone completely. The Bermuda will just fill in right there, and you'll never see that gap ever again. Yes, I could have used some sod staples and pulled it tight and put staples in it, but I didn't want to do that because I will be using my turf rake and my verticutter in the future, and I didn't want those things digging and catching those sod staples in the future and causing damage to my equipment, so I chose not to use the sod staples. Now with turf types that don't spread, like a fescue or a ryegrass, if this were fescue out here and I wanted to fix these little imperfections, I'd simply get me a little topsoil, fill in the gaps, smooth it out, put a little bit of grass seed right there. So hey, that's kind of my take on laying sod. If you want to follow along and watch us grow Bermuda and not try any crazy things like overseeding year one Bermuda with ryegrass, we won't be doing that for a while. Like, subscribe, and share. And we'll do some more traditional, straightforward Bermuda grass care here. And as always, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch. I'll check you later.